Hello, students. Today we are going to learn something very interesting. Think about all the things you use every day. Your school bag, your lunchbox, even the chair you're sitting on. All these things are made in different industries. But how do we make sense of so many industries? Well, we group them. In this explainer, we will learn how we classify industries to understand our economy better.
So, here is our plan for today. First, we will understand why we need to group industries in the first place. Then, we will look at the different ways we can classify them, based on what they use, what they do, who owns them, and even how big they are. And at the end, we'll have a quick recap and a small task for you. Shall we begin?
All right, let's start with our first section. The big question is, why do we need to group industries at all?
To understand this, let's think about your own home. In your cupboard, you probably keep all your t-shirts together, and all your trousers in another place. Or on your bookshelf, you might keep your textbooks separate from your storybooks. Why do you do this? It helps you find things easily, doesn't it? It keeps everything organized.
Exactly, and that is precisely what we do with industries. You see, there are thousands and thousands of industries out there. By grouping them, we can study them in a systematic way. It helps us, it helps the government, it helps everyone to understand how our economy is working.
This process of grouping is what we call the classification of industries, and we group them based on some common features. Think of it like sorting blocks by their color or their shape. We just need to decide on the rule or the criterion for sorting. So let's look at the different criteria we can use.
Okay, one of the easiest ways to classify an industry is to look at the raw materials it uses. What are the basic ingredients that go into making the final product? Now, based on raw materials, we can make two broad groups. On one hand, we have agro-based industries, and on the other, we have mineral-based industries. Let's understand each one.
Agro-based industries are quite simple to understand. The name itself gives a clue. Agro comes from agriculture. So, these are industries that get the raw materials from farms. For example, the sugar we eat comes from the sugar industry, which uses sugarcane, a crop. And the cotton t-shirt you might be wearing, it comes from the cotton textile industry, which uses cotton grown by farmers.
And then we have mineral-based industries. Now, these are different. Their raw materials are not grown on farms, but are taken out from the earth. They are minerals and metals that are mined. The best example is the iron and steel industry. It takes iron ore from mines to make the strong steel that is used to build everything from cars to huge buildings.
Great. So, we've learned how to classify industries based on what they use. Now, let's see how we can classify them based on what they do. What is their main role in the whole process of making things?
Based on their role, we can again make two groups. We call them basic or key industries and consumer industries.
Basic industries are like the foundation of a building. They are absolutely essential. Why? Because they make products that other industries need. For example, the steel industry is a basic industry. It makes steel. But you and I don't buy steel directly, do we? No. A car industry buys that steel to make a car. So the steel industry is a key that unlocks production for other industries.
Consumer industries, on the other hand, make things for us, the consumers. They produce the final finished goods that we buy from a shop and use directly. The toothpaste you used this morning, the paper in your notebooks, the biscuits you eat, all these come from consumer industries. All right, let's move to our next classification. This one is about a very simple question. Who owns the industry? Who is the owner? This is classification based on ownership.
Now, here we have four main types. First is the public sector. These industries are owned by the government, like BHEL or SAIL. Then you have the private sector, which is owned by individuals or a group of individuals, like Tisco or Bajaj. Then there's a mix of the two, called the joint sector, where both the government and private individuals own the industry together, like Oil India Limited. And finally, a very interesting one, the cooperative sector. This is owned by the people who produce the raw materials or the workers themselves, like many sugar industries in Maharashtra.
Let's move on to our last method of classification for today. This one is based on the sheer bulk and weight of the raw materials and the finished products.
And based on weight, the names are very logical. We simply call them heavy industries and light industries.
Heavy industries, as the name tells you, use raw materials that are very heavy and bulky, like iron ore or coal. And the goods they produce are also very heavy. Because of this, moving these materials from one place to another costs a lot of money. The iron and steel industry is a perfect example of a heavy industry.
Take a look at this map. It shows where India's iron and steel plants are located. You will notice that many of them are near the areas where the raw materials are found. Why do you think that is? Yes, it is to save money on transportation, which, as we just learned, is a very big cost for heavy industries.
And the opposite of this is light industries. These industries use raw materials that are light in weight, and they also produce goods that are light. For example, think about the industry that makes electrical fans or bulbs. The materials are not very heavy, and the final products are easy to transport.
Wow, we have covered quite a bit today, haven't we? Let's take a moment to do a quick recap of everything we have learned.
So, we learned about the main ways to classify industries. Remember them? First, on the basis of raw materials, agro-based or mineral-based. Second, on the basis of their main role. Are they basic or consumer? Third, on the basis of ownership, public, private, joint, or cooperative. And fourth, on the basis of bulk and weight, heavy or light.
And now it's your turn to apply this knowledge. Look around your house. Can you try to classify the industry that made your water bottle or your school bag? Also think about the local bakery or the dairy shop near your home. What kind of industry is that? Try to classify it using the methods we've just discussed. This will really help you to remember these concepts. Thank you for joining me today.